Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America. Thank you so much for following Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, of course, across the pond, and Paris, France, as well as London, England, and also Canada. We love you, Canada, so I'm going to spare the national anthem because we love you so much, Canada. And I want to say there's no one I love more than them good old boys down in the land of the free and the home of the brave, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I'm a little nervous about that.
Yeah.
Normally, we don't get that excited till it's about time to go to bed, everything is functional. Great weekend, coming forth, Charlton here in the South. Had a couple of teams participating in the finals and in the Final Four. What more can you ask? I mean, you guys got a couple of teams on the West Coast that actually limped into it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of teams all over the country. It's amazing how they play so hard, Big C, just to get to this day, for March Madness. Again, I still think it's egregious that there's no money being given to these kids, and by the time we're done with this, it's going to be nearly $1 billion spent.
That's the reason why it's ending in April, because it's April Fool.
Yeah, it's April Fool for all them good old boys thinking that they're doing something like getting an education. But, nothing's perfect. I just hope that they can still, broach the subject of at least finding a way to make it equal pay for some of the guys who produce the labor. So they're the engine to the car. And speaking of the engine to the car, today is a beautiful March 31st, 2017, the last day in March. And I want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them you want the one that Big C drives. So tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, you're still driving the Escalade down south, Big C.
And see, summertime comes. This is the key to the Escalade.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lovely ladies that run around with convertible cars.
Oh my God! Make sure you put the tops up, ladies. You don't want to do that. I know sometimes. I remember back in the day, living over in the Bay Area, there's a highway called 880. In fact, it runs by the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum, which is going to be sending some U-Haul trucks to go to Las Vegas in a couple of years, Big C. But I'll never forget one time driving, and I had my shirt off because I was lifting weights back in the day, and these ladies were driving by in a big SUV. They were looking over to see what my chest pecs looked like, Big C. Would you believe ladies were doing that to me, Big C? Yeah. I thought I was looking like The Rock, Big C. So, man, it's tough when you got big pecs, so be careful out there. You don't want people grabbing on them. But, Big C, I know you're excited about what's going on, in Phoenix, Arizona. You think about Phoenix, down in the heat, down in the desert, Southwest. They host Super Bowls. They host NCAA championship games when it comes to football. They also do it for now March Madness. What is it about Phoenix that makes a lot of people want to go down there as opposed to going to Los Angeles? Because LA has a lot more to offer when it comes to entertainment. Why is Phoenix such a hotbed for sports, Big C?
Well, Charlton, you have to look at the accessibility to the amenities. One of the things you get caught up in Los Angeles, Charlton, is you get bombarded with the traffic, and that's not one of the things that you want to look at when you're having a championship event going on. You want to have people have easy access to the venues, be able to move about comfortably. You want to have enough hotel accommodation, which Phoenix does accommodate. And because they built that stadium in an area where you have professional teams. You got to realize you have the Suns down there, you have the Phoenix Coyotes, an NHL hockey team, as well as the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
So you do have the facilities to house these places. But when you look at the modern facility like University of Phoenix Stadium, Charlton, that's the number one draw. Just like you had Reliance Stadium. You think about the events that Reliance Stadium hosted last year.
Yeah.
They hosted the NCAA championship as well as the Super Bowl. Two outstanding events, Charlton, that went down to basically the last play in both games.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for in a city representing championships in one season?
Yeah.
So we're hoping we get that same thing down in Phoenix this year. But that warm weather climate, Charlton, is very attractive to people. You know, you got the multiple golf courses as well as other things for fans to be involved in. So this is what it is. When a city can put on an event.
Yeah.
And that's what you look for is affordability. If you look at the price of being in Phoenix versus the price of being in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
Two totally different things. But it's been a long time since Los Angeles has hosted any type of championship, Charlton. When you really think about it, the last Super Bowl was there, I believe, in '79 with the Steelers and the Rams. Make that 82.
Yeah.
With the Steelers and the Rams. You know, we've had a couple World Series, but that's just because teams are in it. But bringing a big-time event to Los Angeles has seemed to have lost its luster. It has a lot of outdated venues.
Yeah.
And that's not attractive to professional organizations who want to come in. We know they're talking about building, a new football stadium down there trying to get ready to host the Olympics, which will be in trouble if the current president still is seated at that time because other countries won't want to come here.
Yeah, especially Russia, Big C. Russia would have a hard time coming here, Big C.
Los Angeles, it might be a sexy city for entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's not a sexy city for hosting sporting events, so.
Yeah, in fact, you're right. In fact, the last Super Bowl was, I think, '93 when Dallas beat up on Buffalo, them good old boys, and I think Leon Lett.
That was in Pasadena.
In Pasadena, and that's when you think about it. What you just mentioned, Pasadena, I think that's been around nearly 100 years. The Rose Bowl, Coliseum.
Over 100 years old.
Yeah.
And it hosted 2 Super Bowls in the '90s. You got to realize Denver, the Giants beat up on Denver as well as Dallas beating up on Buffalo.
Yeah. So we know that. But when you think about it, you just made a nice point. The 100-year-old stadiums they're nice to say they're kind of like the Roman Coliseum in a sense. They won't tear them down, and that's a good thing. It's like you would never want to see Wrigley Field torn down in Chicago. You just want to see it expanded, or Lambeau Field and Green Bay. You want to see that expanded. But I think this new stadium coming in Los Angeles, it will make it again, traffic aside, one of the meccas of the world for at least major sporting events. We're hoping that comes. But when you also think about the major sporting events, we'll close with some of the March Madness going on. But I know we talk about Russell Westbrook being the winner of the Big C Focus Award, and that goes back to the great late Al Davis when he told Ronnie Lott, stay focused. And Russell Westbrook now, he's about, 3 or 4 triple-doubles away from tying or the great Oscar Robertson. Whoever thought that would have happened, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he had his 37th triple-double of the season last night. That just leaves him 3 behind Oscar Robertson, 4 from breaking the record.
Yeah.
And Oscar Robertson has come out saying he hopes that Russell Westbrook breaks the record because he deserves also to be the MVP.
Yeah.
And what more of a representation can you get? A nod of approval other than the great Oscar Robertson. When you talk about basketball aficionados,
yeah,
he's not one of these young, newfangled sports writers who's going out there trying to make a name for himself. Oscar's name is synonymous with the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
So when you think about what Russell is doing, Charlton, it's just uncanny, the way he goes in, night out. And without him, Oklahoma City would not have a team, Charlton. They'd be fighting with the Lakers for the number 1, number 2 draft pick.
Yeah.
Overall. But that's how valuable he's been. And you think about the one he had a couple nights ago when, he was for the 57 points.
Yeah.
The highest single point production in anybody getting a triple-double, Charlton, in recent years. So you look at what he does for his team, what he has done for the NBA excitement. The NBA is always looking for the next hybrid scenario.
Uh-huh.
And that's what Russell Westbrook has brought to the league this year, Charlton. We looked at James Harden last night, who basically shot himself out of the MVP race.
Yeah.
He scored 30 points, but it took him 30 shots to make it, Charlton. He only made 11 field goals.
Yeah, he became Kobe Bryant last night. Kobe would shoot 30 times to score 30 points, also Big C.
He thought he was the Mamba, but he also has this wrist problem that he doesn't want to sit down.
Yeah.
And I think that may hurt his team as it goes into the playoffs, as this wrist gets worse. And they play the Warriors tonight, Charlton.
Yeah.
So this is a team that will put a lot of pressure on him, and I think that ego won't let him sit down versus the Warriors. But if he doesn't rest, Charlton, he'll be sitting down the whole offseason versus the Warriors.
Yeah, and when you talk about the Warriors, you brought up the great Russell Westbrook, and I know a lot of people they were saying, who's the most valuable player for OKC going back to last year? Was it Durant? And some people said it was Westbrook, and vice versa. And no matter who you believed in, I just want to get your thoughts. And of course, we're just kind of guessing, I'm not making an educated guess like a lot of other people. If Westbrook had been the one that left and Durant would have been the one that stayed, do you think Durant would be in the rankings for the MVP of the league, Big C, as opposed to what Westbrook has done? When Superman left, Batman took off, Robin stepped it up. Do you think that we would be talking about Durant MVP if he was the one that stayed? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I think we would, Jonathan. You think about how dominant Durant is as a player. Now, he went to Golden State last year.
Yeah.
Best record in NBA history.
Yeah.
And he became the dominant player on that team, the team's leading scorer. So that lets you know that he could walk into a room full of superstars and still be the man. So think about if he'd have stayed in OKC. There would have been no doubt in my mind that Durant, Charlton, would have easily averaged 30, 35 points a game if he had stayed in OKC. When I look at how he scores his points, and he scores his points a lot easier than what Westbrook does. Charlton, he has such a fluid jump shot. Westbrook has to do a lot of physical things to score. That's what he does. It doesn't come to him as easy as it did Durant. You know, how do you defend a guy who's 6'11" and can raise up for a mini spot on the floor and shoot?
You put
that can defend that.
Yeah.
He has the inside-outside thing. You know that Westbrook, when he goes to the basket, he can score. But he has to use so much physicality to get to that point, Charlton. That's the difference in the game.
Yeah.
And Durant, when you look at their tenure together in Oklahoma City, Charlton, he was always a dominant offensive player. You would see Westbrook take the ball out of his hands a lot because he felt he should get the points.
Yeah.
Now, would Westbrook would have been able to do this with another team, Charlton, going to another team?
Right.
I don't think so. I don't think that he would have blended because the players in Oklahoma City knew that he was their number one guy.
Yeah.
Period. So you backed away a lot of times and deferred to him when you might have been the best shot option in the game.
Yeah, and when you talk about best players, talk about playoffs. We're getting the playoffs tonight, at least in the Western Conference, because you have Oklahoma City there at home versus San Antonio. That's an ESPN game, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And then you have Houston at Golden State out here in the West Coast. That's a 10:30 tip-off at the Coliseum here in Oakland. And that's playoff basketball. It's amazing to see if Golden State can run the table, knocking off OKC, San Antonio, and Houston the last time they played. That shows you how good they are. And like you said, they don't even have that Kevin Durant. But I just want to get your thoughts again with the acclaim that you gave Kevin Durant. Express again why you think that Steve Kerr should keep him as a sixth man coming off the bench when he's healthy, Big C. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that would be the best attribute for the team. You know, the problem with all these coaches is that they are experts. And sometimes they know too much.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is look at how well that your team is playing right now. How would you disrupt that by putting Durant in? Who do you take back out of the lineup that has allowed the team to gel at the rate that they've been gelling, Charlton? That's what you're going to miss. So you're going to put Durant back in.
Yeah.
It's going to take Durant a few games, 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6, Charlton, to get reacclimated because roles change at that point.
Yeah.
And that's the toughest thing about changing roles. You know, we've seen that with quarterbacks coming back into games, you know, in the playoff scenario, and not playing as well when the backup has gotten to that point because they want to say, well, it's the starter's team. Well, you know, in the game of basketball, there's so many integral parts.
Yeah.
And Golden State, they didn't get to 73 victories last year not knowing what they were doing. A big part of that was the chemistry.
Yeah.
And now, at this late point in the year, as a coach, and I'm looking at Steve Kerr, and, you know, like I said, hopefully he's listening to the program.
Oh, he listens.
Why do you mess up what's going well for you at this point?
Yeah.
We saw that last year in the playoffs, where he changed up some things that cost him a back-to-back championship. If he does it this year again, Charlton, it potentially will get him knocked out. He may not make it to the final.
Yeah, and
but you're bringing Kevin Durant off the bench, Charlton.
Yeah.
And if you can get 20 to 25 points off your bench from one player,
yeah.
You think about when they beat San Antonio the other night. San Antonio had the best bench in the NBA.
Yeah.
And their bench scored 45 points. Kevin Durant is going to give you half of that, if not 60% of that, every night coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Why not be an intelligent coach and get that?
Well, Big C, that makes a lot of sense. And I just want to get your thoughts on another game. Since we're talking about some West Coast teams, DeMarcus Cousins traded from Sacramento after 7 seasons here, a 3-time All-Star for the Sacramento Kings. Now he's at New Orleans. New Orleans has Davis, and they have Boogie Cousins, and now Sacramento's going back there. Not that it's a big game on a national level, but what kind of statement can DeMarcus Cousins make to the Sacramento Kings organization that let him go? Even though they put up with a lot of his garbage over the years, he was still great for the community. New Orleans is a 10.5-point favorite over Sacramento. Just your thoughts on Boogie Cousins, and if he happens to get a technical, he'll have to sit out another game, Big C. But your thoughts, is it kind of a revenge game for Cousins, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I know how you feel going back to a team that said you would be there.
Yeah.
It's not easy as a player, a former player, even to move, and I experienced that.
Yeah.
But the thing that Cousins needs to do more than anything else, Charlton,
yeah,
is grow up, okay?
Yeah.
That's what he needs to do in going back to Sacramento. The one thing that young players and even Cousins, which personifies this, don't understand. What are you when you're a player in professional sports?
Yeah. You're lucky.
You are an employee, Charlton. You are an employee. If you're working for IBM and they said, we're going to transfer you from Silicon Valley, okay, up to Seattle.
Yeah.
You move.
Yeah.
Even though you got kids in school, you got a wife who has a big team that she plays with.
Yeah.
You move because you're the breadwinner.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that in professional sports that players have gotten a misunderstanding in every one. You are an employee. You are not the owner.
Yeah.
You are just like any employee with any other corporation or business in America. When it's time to leave, or, and ownership and management feel that you're not an asset to their organization any longer,
yeah,
you're not making an advancement, you got to go. But the young players now feel they have a sense of entitlement, that you owe them, and you saw that for several years in Sacramento with Cousins.
Yeah.
Is that he was old and you couldn't say anything to him. The media was scared of him, management was scared of him,
yeah,
and everybody said he's going to make the team better. You have to look at, from his rookie year, Charlton, to the time that he was traded, how much of improvement did Sacramento have in their organization?
No, they
advanced in any kind of way. No, they didn't.
Right.
After 3 years, especially 4 years with a professional athlete, Charlton, if you see no, extensive advancement in your organization or him improvement-wise, it's time to cut ties because you're just wobbling. And so Sacramento toiled for 7 years with Cousins.
Yeah.
And he most likely will get that technical foul when he come back in because he has a point to prove.
Yeah.
The only point that Cousins has to prove the rest of his year, this year and his career, Charlton, is that he can grow up.
Yeah.
Yes, you're a multi-millionaire. Nobody's going to outright cut you because somebody will pick you up before the ink gets dry.
Yeah.
But the only thing that you have left in your career to prove is that you can grow up, be a grown man playing basketball, and stop whining about everything. If he had played in the 70s and the 80s NBA, Charlton, he wouldn't have lasted. Teams would have gotten rid of him back then. But now, this so-called marqueeism that everybody is so fangled with, he's not a marquee player. He's a marked player, but he's not a marquee player.
Well, that's a very good point, Big C. There's something that we talk about, too, that happens in the world of basketball. I think TNT, we've been talking about paying homage for the old time. We call it the old school, and now TNT has a thing on Monday. It's called Players Only. Well, you're looking at a lot of guys that made a lot of money. And I think for Cousins and any other young player, because he's not the only one, they can look at these guys who no one cares about anymore other than getting a chance to come on TV for 30 minutes on a Monday night to talk about the game that they love. Now, they may still be multimillionaires, but that's beside the point. The point is, in life, in that hourglass called life, you only have so much time to be at the very top of anything that you're doing. And a lot of these guys that I see on the Players Only segment of TNT, they all pay homage to how much they missed the game and how much they wish they would have done things differently. And maybe some of these old-timers can talk to some of the young kids, not just Cousins, but some of the guys that are going to be down in Arizona for March Madness, where I know you're going to be flying in there too. And they want to find out, what could I have done better? Well, you just gave a good teaching lesson to these young kids. And even the young guys now, nobody cares about you when the cheering stops. Nobody cares about you when you're not on TV every other week. And nobody cares about you when you're not wearing a number if you're African American And that's what I want a lot of the kids at March Madness to understand. Does that make a lot of sense, Big C, that they should pay attention as well as Cousins to when your game's over, nobody cares about you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Charlton, if you look at the NFL, 90% of the players in the NFL, no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
Other than that number on their back. If you're not a marquee player in the NFL where your face is seen and you have endorsement, no one knows who you are unless you're a diehard fan of that team.
Yeah.
They can walk down the street in obscurity other than their size. Well, when you're looking at NBA bench, Charlton, there's 4 guys that sitting at the end of the bench and nobody even knows they're on the team.
Yeah.
Every night. And the only reason you think they're basketball players because of their height.
Yeah.
So unless you're in that marquee realm, that no one knows who you are. Around in this area where I live, Charlton, there's so many guys that are above 6'8", it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Every time you see them, make you want to bring out an axe.
Yeah. That's funny.
So when you walk around, and you see people all the time ask, did you play ball? Did you play ball? And guys will say, yeah, I played in college. So when you think about it, Charlton, and we look at the limited number of guys in the NBA,
yeah,
and they only have 2 rounds in the draft, and only the first round is guaranteed of making it in the NBA. And there's guys that are toiling in the D-League in Europe and Spain and Israel, everywhere else, China, that they have a basketball court, playing basketball, trying to extend their career, hoping to have that opportunity to play or get to the NBA for a year or even a 10-game contract.
Yeah.
So when these guys sit around and think, I got it made, yes, you do. But think about the dozens who didn't get it made that played that same position at the same time you did in college.
Yeah.
We look at the Final Four, Charlton.
Yeah.
And in this Final Four, North Carolina is most likely the most physically dominant and imposing team in the tournament. They have the experience, they have the height, they have the speed, they have the experience of being there.
Yeah.
But when you look at this in totality, there's 4 teams, Charlton, and each one of these teams have 15 players, okay?
Yeah.
That's 30 players. Each NBA team, what do we have, 30 NBA teams, Charlton?
Yeah.
So if each player on each one of these teams was the number 1 draft pick, that means 30 other guys got to be without a job. But there's not 30 guys that are playing in the Final Four, Charlton, that will be drafted.
That's true.
There's 5, maybe 6 of the 30 players in the Final Four that would be drafted in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, if you only have 5 or 6 players, Charlton, that are drafted out of 30. So if we look at that cumulative number, Charlton, we have 54 players that are not being drafted.
Yeah.
54 big, tall guys walking around the country that did not get drafted. So when people think that, it's easy to play professional sports, and what did they start out, Charlton, with 68 teams in the Final Four?
Yeah.
In March Madness?
Yeah.
68 teams. And of that 68 teams, Charlton, in March Madness, I guarantee you that no more than 22 to 24 players in total will be drafted into the NBA because you got to look at all the Europeans that are going to be drafted, Charlton.
Yeah. And
so if you get a height of 30 out of that, and so everybody times that 68 by 15, and see how many tall guys will be unemployed.
Yeah.
From the basketball realm. So the guys who make it in the game, who have the disrespect for the game, Charlton, and where they are and how fortunate they are of getting there. And I'm not knocking any professional athlete's lifestyle or whatever, Charlton.
Yeah.
But be appreciative of where you are a little bit. Take that profession a little more serious because we see guys wasting off in these professions every year.
Yeah.
And you wonder, how did so much of a talent go to waste? And that's the problem with all professional sports, not just basketball, football, baseball, Charlton, all of it, hockey.
Yeah.
So much young talent goes to waste.
Well, you know what, Big C? I love what you're saying. I look at a guy like Byron Scott that played for the Lakers. He was not the star player when he played for the Lakers, but he's well-spoken. He was never a troublemaker, so he had the chance to get into coaching once his playing days were over. Now he's doing television work when he's not coaching, Big C. Chauncey Billups also, same thing with the Detroit Pistons back in the day. He's also doing television. There are a lot of people, you got to understand that the same good old boys that you offend when you don't think you need them, some of those same good old boys can put in the good work for you to keep working when your playing days are over and everybody wants to be the Superman going on in business, and sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Look at Michael Jordan. He was never a troublemaker. Michael Jordan is one of the co-owners of an NBA franchise, and he's obviously one of the top players in the history of basketball, give or take, Oscar Robertson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, them good old boys, Magic Johnson, Wilt Chamberlain. No matter who you pick, he's right there in the talking. And we look at what Russell Westbrook is doing. When he has a triple-double, they're 31-7. When he doesn't have a triple-double, OKC is 12-24. This thing about him, he's so focused. He's like part of the Big C Award winner that Al Davis talked about with Ronnie Lott. Stay focused. It doesn't matter how big and strong and fast you are. Big C, I love that you take the time to talk to young players like this. I think Jim Brown used to do the same thing until he got hooked up with Donald Trump and drank some of that moonshine that Donald Trump sipped into his cup, Big C. And we'll get a little bit on Trump too. But I just want to say to these young guys, and most of them are going to be black. Okay, most of them are not going to be offered a role on TV. Most of them are not going to be offered a head coaching position. So at least be an example for the next young kid that thinks he wants to act like you, and don't say, hey, I just want to get my word across. People are watching you. And Charles Barkley said he's not a role model, and I understand that. Nobody has to be a role model, but people are all looking up to you. So I love one of the things about Big C Sports. We're asking athletes, black and white, to be accountable to the next generation coming up. Adults do what they do, but when you're on TV, at least have a persona that shows respect. One more thing I want to bring up, the kid Lonzo Ball. I love his play at UCLA. I think he's going to be a great passing guard in the NBA. Maybe not as much of a scorer, but a great passing guard, a lot like Jason Kidd. But when you're on TV, wear a sports jacket. Don't come on TV with a hoodie. You're about to become a multi-millionaire. And that image of young black men, the media doesn't do well when it comes to giving us the better chance or the benefit of the doubt. So show these young kids that don't want to walk around with their pants up, they think it's cool to have their underwear hanging out. Show an example, Big C. His father.
It's not like he's walking out there by himself.
Yeah, his dad is.
His dad is an advocate for however he looks and whatever he's wearing. His dad comes on television dressed that same way. So this is the mentorship that he's brought up in, Charlton.
That's a good point.
He's not been taught to be Madison Avenue. He might be a tremendous basketball player, but he's not Madison Avenue. He's not the guy that the endorsers are going to come at Charlton and say, we want you to be our next spokesperson.
Yeah.
Because this is the early image that he is portraying. He's not going to change.
Yeah.
This is what I talk about in this young generation of players. Not having the understanding and the maturity because they don't spend the time in college. They don't get a chance to grow up. Yes, Charles, you can find talent everywhere, okay?
Yeah.
I don't care what sport there is. There's always somebody better than whoever played. Okay?
Yeah.
We look at Nick Young, who was the Lakers' number one draft pick a couple of years ago that helped split the Lakers team with all the locker room banter and allegations with former with teammates.
Yeah.
But that was from immaturity, Charles.
Yeah.
That's the childhood of these young guys thinking that they can go on the social media and block somebody out, Charlton. If you'd have did that 30 years ago, you would have gotten cut.
Yeah.
The rest of the team would have guaranteed you got cut or traded.
Yeah.
Period. You wouldn't have lasted another week in the locker room. I don't care who you were or how much talent. If you opened up another teammate like that to exposure, nobody would have played with you. And then the other 11 guys would have walked in the manager and said, he's got to go or we don't play. He would have been out of town the next day. They don't care when he'd attended.
And let me just
been out of town the next day.
And let me just say something. I get criticized by this all the time, especially from the black community. I wish that some of our brethren, African-American sports athletes, we can't just expect the clergy because nobody really respects the preacher nowadays. You can never talk to them without asking you for money so they can give it to God. And everybody has a choice for that. But at least for the athletes, can we teach, it's not just the black community, but that's what I see a lot of. Can we pull our pants up, please? Can we tell these young kids, and I see grown men walking around with their underwear hanging out. I don't know where that came from. I know it came out of the prison. But while you have at a professional event, I see people walking around with their underwear hanging out, and they're grown men, 30 and 40 years old. It's not just a knucklehead, teenage boys. Can we get our athletes? Would you imagine Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Willis Reed, Oscar Robertson, walking into a place with their underwear hanging out? Who's that good old boy with 11 championships? Bill Russell? Would you imagine Bill Russell walking around as a grown man with his underwear hanging out, thinking that's cool? I don't know if it's the rap community, but part of our community, man, you guys got to check yourself. We got all this garbage going on in the White House. Can we please make that a national push? Maybe we need Louis Farrakhan to put in another Million Man March. Big C, your thoughts?
Jonathan, we don't even have to go back as far as the players you just talked about. Look at the championships of the 80s, of the 90s, even of the early 2000s. Those players carried themselves with class. You know, one of the things Commissioner Stern had imposed in the NBA was the dress code.
Yeah.
That this was a professional business. There was a suit and tie league, Jonathan, when Stern was in. I'm not all sure what Silver's allowing now.
Right.
But, you know, to give young players that autonomy to say, hey, we can dress how we want, we can wear the sweatsuits, we can wear the untied sneakers, you know, all of these things. Dress like a professional.
Could you imagine Dr. King?
Like a professional.
Yeah, Big C, could you imagine Dr. King walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge for civil rights for young black boys to walk around with their underwear hanging out, the way they walked around in dignity? Could you imagine what happened to our society where that became okay? I know you got guys like Kanye West, a lot of rappers do that garbage, and if you're a talent, that's one thing. But who would want to see their grandparents walking around with their underwear hanging out, calling themselves pro-black? And I get criticized by black people for saying that, so it ain't about black and white, but that's primarily where the criticism comes. But I would hope that someone could bring that up, Big C.
Look at any of our black entertainers, our artists, our athletes of the 60s, 70s, 80s. They all walked around in business attire.
Yeah.
You know, whether they were at work, anywhere else.
Yeah.
They had a belt on, Charlton. Their pants were pulled up. It wasn't about this denigration of attire that you're putting on, saying that you're representing us.
They're not representing me.
Culture, Charlton, was the best dressed culture in America during the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
No, they were. Everywhere they went, you know, it looked like they were going to church. If you left the house, you were dressed. You had a coat and tie on. The ladies had on nice dresses.
Yeah.
All of these things. It was a representation of their character.
Of their grandparents. You respect your parents and your parents and grandparents.
But think about it, Charlton. Think about all the years that black people fought.
Yeah.
To have the ability to do those things. To be able to dress. To look professional. To be able to walk amongst the public.
Yeah.
And not feel ashamed about how they look. And we've gone back to that changing of a culture with the representation now of a lot of our younger culture, even our middle-aged culture.
Yeah.
Going around dressing like this. And you wonder why you can't get a job.
Yeah.
Because you're dressed like this, you got tattoos up and down your neck. You can't go into a place of business and say, hey, I want to be hired, I got tattoos on my face.
Yeah.
Unless you're a rapper with a lot of money and you're not looking for employment, Charlton.
Yeah.
And even those guys, I'm trying to understand what it represents. I mean, to say it's a cultural thing.
It's not.
I don't know if it's a cultural thing, Charlton. I know it's something where people are trying to separate themselves from what? You know, we're a society in America.
Yeah.
Everybody's not equal, but don't make it worse on yourself.
Yeah, and just for you good old boys who think that I'm picking on the black society, I'm not. I just think it's disgusting, and I hope that a lot of grown men can say it. But Big C, for all you good old boys that are saying, yeah, I told you that's how they are, would you believe our president, POTUS, Donald Trump, you know, the 45th president of the United States of America, allegedly, he's asking former Matt Flynn to ask for immunity to testify about his relationship with Vladimir Putin and them good old boys in Russia. We all know they're part of Russian banking and Donald Trump. They've been getting hotel money to build hotels from these Russian oligarchy banks. He's gotten his good old, I guess his son-in-law to be thrown under the bus, giving him the chance to deal with Russia. They say that it's my son-in-law, not me. And also he's put his daughter in a position to throw her under the bus so they can be investigated and not him. I mean, he reminds me of J.R. Ewing from Dallas. He'll stop at nothing to get power, but you can't fool the FBI. They're like a pit bull when they lock on to you, Big C. Can you believe he's asking Flynn to ask for immunity, giving someone, the President of the United States, giving advice for someone to not tell the truth, so ask for immunity? Could you imagine if President Obama did that? They would have chewed him up, Big C. What in the world's going on with Donald Trump and his lying? He just keeps lying, and now he's telling people to lie for him. And if you can't lie, don't talk. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, I'll go back to his campaign, Jonathan, where it was a weekly banter from him, where he was constantly stating that there were 5 people from Hillary's campaign that were seeking immunity from prosecution.
Yeah.
And his whole line was that they're seeking immunity, then they must have done something illegal. Mike Flynn also did the same thing on a set with Meet the Press one week.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said that the 5 people and he said this back in December.
Yeah.
These 5 people who were seeking diplomatic immunity in Hillary's campaign, that they had to have done something legal and they should be locked up.
Yeah.
But these are the same two people that said if somebody is seeking diplomatic immunity, that they should not be locked.
They should be locked up, yeah.
They're seeking the same thing. So why is Flynn asking for this, and why is Trump encouraging for this? Because if he gets this immunity, whatever lie he tells, he can tell.
Yeah.
He says he wants to cooperate, then you can cooperate without immunity, Dalton.
Yeah.
And cooperating without immunity means that you're accessible to perjury.
Yeah.
If you perjure yourself. That's what he's trying to avoid, but don't give him immunity. Make him testify anyway. Do not allow him to take the fifth.
Yeah.
And give him that option. You take the fifth, we give you 5 years in prison, or you cooperate. I mean, those are easy options to give the guy because we know he's dirty. Everything all you gotta do is watch the news at night.
Oh, yeah.
You see everything that he's done, and it's not a hidden secret.
Yeah.
And here's Donald Trump bringing the guy to the White House, and every day they lied about the guy until it got to the point they couldn't lie anymore. And then Donald Trump allowing, people from the Senate, the Congress, into Nunez, into the White House.
Yeah.
You go get the information. Bring it to me. That way it doesn't look like I went down.
Yeah. It's funny how.
It was like a puppy dog.
Yeah.
And that's what he did for Nunez. So Nunez became a fall guy for Trump also, just like Flynn has become a fall guy for Trump.
Yeah, so I want to know, Jim Brown, I don't know what he said to you guys, Kanye West, you good old boys, when he criticized John Lewis. John Lewis, Elijah Cummings, they knew that Donald Trump was crooked. It's just taking the media a short time to come out and get him. I don't know why they're taking him so long, but I guess it's called white skin privilege, according to Tim Wise. And I listened to Michael Eric Dyson talk about that. Yeah.
I look at it from this aspect.
Yeah.
They don't want to be rushed to judgment. If they do it all too quick, then people are going to say it was a witch hunt.
Yeah.
The thing about it, when you're out rounding up cattle, okay?
Yeah.
Anybody who has a ranch does this. You don't want to scatter. You
Yeah.
want to keep them at a nice, even pace, and that way they will go in the direction that you want. All of a sudden?
Yeah.
And scatter a couple, they go in all different directions.
Well,
and that's, the FBI has the time. You need to understand that.
Yeah.
The FBI has time.
Yeah.
There's no rush.
Yeah.
Today is going to be just like cruising with them. They'll let you sit around and get comfortable and come home. And you think about it.
Yeah.
How many mistakes have you seen come up on a daily basis?
Oh, yeah.
Because the FBI is in no rush.
Yeah.
How many lies can Sean Spicer tell on a daily basis? Because the FBI is in no rush.
Well,
you sit up and you perjure yourself on television every day.
Yeah, well, when you speak of Rush, what is Rush Limbaugh going to do? I mean, he's such an ignorant person, and he has an audience. Could you imagine? People say he's not ignorant, he's rich. No, he's ignorant. He's a guy on Oxycontin, so he has a drug issue. He's grossly out of shape, and he's very angry. He sweats in front of a cooler, Big C. When it's 30 degrees, he's sweating. But these guys lie so much to these what they call ditto heads. And I think for the people in Congress, whether you're Democrat or Republican, they all love sports. They always want to give you their opinion on how they like their sports teams back home. Tom Osborne, he's out of Nebraska, and he talks about how he likes the Nebraska football program and basketball programs. You have all these senators from all over the country, okay? But why are these congressmen willing to put America second just to let this guy go forward? I think you just explained that the FBI is taking their time because that's what they can do. Does that make sense, Big C? Is that why?
They do, Charlton. And, if anybody rushes, Dick Covey, if he comes in and rushes and says, well, he was just after him from the start. No, he's allowing America to see what has occurred, instead of saying, I told you so.
Yeah.
He's allowing it to evolve in front of Americans' eyes on a daily basis.
So what's...
They won't just see him. They'll say, gosh, we've been seeing this every day.
So what's Rush Limbaugh going to do, Big C? How's he going to explain it when it comes?
He's going to hang out with Sean Hannity, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're going to go out and eat coffee and drink coffee and eat donuts.
That's funny, Big C. I want to say that sports is $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to that $1 billion industry. With Big C Sports, you can get Ben and Mark Insurance. It's athletic and events insurance in all 50 states in the United States. Whether you're a professional athlete, a collegiate athlete, or a high school athlete, even your mom and pop soccer leagues, reach out to Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We also expanded into the 6 o'clock hour on the iHeartRadio network. Big C, I want to bring up something, too, before we get into a little bit of the March Madness. Would you believe down south, the Arkansas House advances gun law stadium exemptions, meaning Arkansas lawmakers voted Thursday to exempt college sporting events from a new state law expanding where concealed weapons are allowed. Why would you think to take a concealed weapon to a sporting event, Big C? Your thoughts?
Jonathan, that's mind-boggling that you would allow something like that. And when you think about the people in the South, and, they've been known to consume a little of that moonshine as well as
yeah.
And in a sporting event, what's not heated about a sporting event, Jonathan? We've seen some heinous acts at sporting events. We've seen fights that have left people in critical condition physically.
Yeah.
These are fist fights, Jonathan, and we've seen other, things that have occurred that are really anti-human, anti-American.
Yeah.
So, but you're going to allow some good old boys who've been liquored up because they're serving alcohol. If anybody forgot, they do serve alcohol in a sporting event.
Yeah.
And when your team is being trounced and you're scouting somebody who's raiding and dogging you right next to you,
yeah.
what's going to stop you now? There's not enough security around in a venue. Okay, Charlton, and then there's, you look at the collateral people that are around.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some heinous things that occur by this Arkansas House allowing this to occur, Charlton. That's criminal.
Yeah, it is.
That's a really criminal act that was done by some politicians against private citizens. That's like releasing somebody with a gun in an airport.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they have this screening, so that you can't walk through a terminal with a gun. People get caught all the time, but you're going to allow this into a venue with over 10,000, sometimes over 20,000 people in it, and saying it's okay. What is he protecting himself? He's feeling threatened. And see, Arkansas, Charlton, is one of those stand-your-ground states.
Yeah.
So you feel threatened by another fan?
Yeah.
They just gave you the right to shoot him, Charlton.
Yeah, that's crazy for all the people talking about everything that's going on outside of the country. I don't know who needs to put a gun in their backpack before they walk into a football or basketball stadium. That's just crazy. And speaking of a few more sports going on, Big C, around the country, the LPGA Golf Tour and A&M, it's called Inspiration, second round in Rancho Mirage, California. That's going to be on the Golf Channel. Also, the PGA Tour Shell Houston Open, second round is in Humboldt, Texas. That's also going to be on Golf Channel. So a lot of good things going on in the world of golf. And I just want to say that of all the people who want to get into this world of sports, and we love it so much, you got to find a way to follow people who are doing something great. And what I love about Big C Sports is we bring that opportunity to talk about things that are real. And we went into the world of sports and politics. And would you believe, Big C, you and I had given Russell Westbrook the Big C award for being focused. And now all over TV today, these good old boys are all saying, from ESPN and all the sports channels, that Westbrook is going to be the MVP. Prior to yesterday, everyone was saying it could be, the good old boy from Houston that doesn't like to play defense. Or Harden, or it could be somebody else, Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James. But now they're all jumping on Westbrook, Big C. So, I hope that he gets it. If not, then it's going to go to someone who's probably less deserving. I want to bring up one more issue, too, in the world of basketball. Tyra Vanderbeer, great coach, Stanford Cardinal, done a great job winning over 1,000 wins. Her and Gino Auriemma, two of the best coaches in the history of college basketball. And she had an article out that women are not recycled in the way that men are, and that she had a news conference saying that women are actually going to get their education where a lot of the men are not. And I just want to ask you your thoughts on that, because it's actually true. But what she did not say is that any of this money that's made by women's basketball should be given out to some of the women either. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, no one's going to play a collegiate athlete. Also, Jonathan, we talk about those who make it in the professional ranks. Yes, there's the WNBA.
Yeah.
They probably make 1% of what an NBA player makes, over a year, Jonathan. Maybe 2%. There's nowhere near the money. So, the stride to become a professional female athlete is not as eager as it is for male athletes. These guys go to school for a year, really 6 months.
Yeah.
That's all they do. They go to school that first semester because they know they're going to declare. pass that second semester, and I don't know how the team does not get NCAA sanctions. They're able to get away with that year in and year out.
Yeah.
But these players, through bad advice, figure that they're going to be the next star in the NBA. And you and I have discussed it many times, and I don't know why fans haven't understood this over the years. Every time a new player gets a job, there's an older player that becomes unemployed.
Yeah.
So there's never an advancement of employment in the league. There's always unemployment that occurs.
Yeah.
So it's a balance act. But these young players, if their career doesn't get to the point that they thought it was going to be, with Charleston even more so.
Yeah.
I remember last year for the NBA draft, Charleston, there were 68 underclassmen declared.
68? Wow.
Okay. 68. Now, there was only 60 players drafted. And of those 60 players drafted last year, Charleston, by the NBA,
Yeah.
22 were from outside the country, Europeans.
Wow.
And Asians. 22 were Asians and Europeans of the players drafted, Charleston. There were 60 players drafted. So there were only 38 American University players drafted, Charleston. So of the 68 that declared,
Yeah.
and only 38 drafted, and there was 30 players, Charleston, left undrafted.
Wow.
No more college eligibility. These were the underclassmen. I'm not talking about the seniors. These were the underclassmen who had to go to a D-League, who had to go to Europe and Asia, wherever they could find a job, if they could find one down in Australia, wherever they had a league in the world play. That those dreams and aspirations of playing in the NBA were shot out the water on the first night of the NBA draft.
Yeah.
But also that education was gone, that opportunity to continue that free education, possibly go back to college for another year,
Yeah.
improve your draft stock. It was over with from bad advice. There are vultures out there calling themselves agents,
Yeah.
representatives, Charleston.
Yeah.
True vultures.
That's true.
I've always felt in all sports leagues, Charleston, if a player hires an agent prior to the draft,
Yeah.
then he cannot be drafted. That should be a standard in all professional leagues. If you hire an agent prior to the draft, you're automatically removed from the draft.
Big C,
Going to a free agent pool.
that's a very good statement to make. There was a movie that Spike Lee did. You see him on a lot of the March Madness commercials back in the day called He Got Game. It had Jesus Sutherland, who was played by the great Ray Allen, who played for the Seattle. Also, he played for the Miami Heat down there. He played for Boston as well when they won a championship. They had Denzel Washington in that game. They had Rick Fox was in that game. Lola, which is I think Carmelo Anthony's wife, she was in that game. They talked about the pressure put on young players, just like you're saying. If you're going to go into the NBA, if you hired an agent before, then maybe that should be some punishment. Not because of the kid's fault, but because of the pressure that's put on these good old boys, Big C, and that's a problem. I wanted to say a few things around the league tonight. In the NBA, you're going to have the Charlotte. They're a 2-point favorite over Denver. Toronto's favorite by 6 over Indiana. I don't think we've seen from Larry Bird, so maybe he's enjoying that $400 million he hit a couple of weeks ago, Big C. And also Cleveland, which has lost 3 in a row. They're a 10.5-point favorite over Philadelphia, them good old boys. Boston's a 10.5-point favorite over Orlando. Miami, a 1-point favorite over New York. Milwaukee's a 9.5-point favorite over Detroit. Memphis by 4.5 over Dallas. We talked about New Orleans by 4, actually 10.5 over Sacramento. And Utah's a 1-point favorite over Washington. The great game tonight, San Antonio is a 1-point favorite over OKC on the road. And Golden State's favorite by 7.5 over Houston. Houston got blitzed by Portland, so Golden State might actually win that game in about double digits, Big C. Just my thoughts on that. But I want to get your thoughts on which one of those games you're looking forward to tonight the most. Is it Houston and Golden State, or would it be them good old boys down in San Antonio playing the good old boys at OKC, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at San Antonio, Charleston, they know that they're not going to win the West now.
Yeah.
And Greg Popovich, we know how intelligent he is as a coach. Is this the time for him to once again rest his veteran players? OKC is going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But how much of Russell Westbrook will be left, Charleston, when they get to the playoffs? I know it's very important for him to break Oscar Robertson's, triple-double record for the season, and I think he'll go out
he'll get it. Yeah.
And continue that streak. He's had 3 consecutive games, Charleston, of triple-doubles, and I see him get his 4th tonight because I don't see Popovich putting his all-star lineup on the floor.
Yeah.
And for Golden State, Charleston, I think think that they want to continue the streak that they have with the 9 consecutive victories right now.
Yeah.
And if they go out and knock off Houston tonight, Charlton, they've served notice to the entire Western Conference that we're back and we're for real.
Yeah.
That we've taken care of all the top teams in the conference in the past week. And so we don't feel challenged from anybody. And that will also put a mindset, Charlton, on those teams that are chasing them in the West.
Yeah.
But this is a tall order, and they don't even have Durant in the lineup, who should be the sixth man, as I stated, and I'll keep reiterating. Steve Kerr, don't be dumb. You were dumb last year. Don't be dumb this year.
Yeah.
Make Kevin Durant your sixth man in the playoffs, and it guarantees you a championship.
Well, Big C, that's a very good point because you do need that energy going down the stretch. And I do want to get on just a few more things going on in the world of sports. Also tonight, Wyoming 8.5-point favorite over Coastal Carolina. You have St. Peter's there, 4.5-point favorite over Texas A&M Corpus. And then we'll get into some of the hockey. The Rangers are favored over Pittsburgh. New York Islanders favored over New Jersey. Chicago favored over Columbus. Calgary's favored over San Jose. St. Louis is favored over them good old boys from Colorado. Washington favored over Arizona. Los Angeles is favored over Vancouver. Big C, going into the Final Four. We know you're going to be down there in the hot part of Arizona. I guess all of it's hot. Did you bring the moonshine to Arizona, and are the good old boys down there receptive to you good old boys from the South bringing in moonshine, Big C? Your thoughts? Yeah.
So you really don't, you can mix it with water and people think you got water, so you can get by with it in a plastic bottle if the bottle doesn't melt.
Yeah.
You'll be okay, but no, it's going to be a glamorous weekend, you know, when you think about the Final Four. You know, you think about tomorrow, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got those teams playing, you know, Gonzaga and Carolina's playing in the first game. You got Carolina and Oregon. It was North Carolina and Oregon in the night game.
Yeah.
And you got a team with the most championships of all time in Carolina. You got the team that won the first championship 77 years ago in Oregon. So that could be a marvelous matchup. You know, physicality-wise, Carolina will be the top team. But, Charlton, this weekend, what I'm really looking forward to, you know, beyond March Madness, you know, ending this weekend, Charlton, is the opening of Major League Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Cubs are tipping off the season on Sunday. There's going to be 3 games on Sunday. And the Cubs are going to open up defending the World Series after over 100 years, Charlton.
Yeah.
And the Cubs seem to be a better team right now than what they were last year. They got 3 solid starting pitchers, Charlton. They picked up a good reliever in the whole season, even though they lost Chapman. They picked up someone who's going to be almost as equal, but not in velocity, but just in overall talent on the mound.
Yeah.
And hitting-wise, you got Scherzer back, who proved to people in the World Series coming in after not playing all year with a knee injury, Charlton.
Yeah.
He was a valuable bat, and I don't think Hayward will be as bad as he was last year at the plate. You know, if he can raise his hitting percentage 25-30%, Charlton, how do you beat the Cubs? They may not have 110 victories this year, but I don't see 100 victories being out of reach.
Well, that's a very good point, Big C. And another thing that's happening, you know, the Big C World Series, you talked about the Cubs. It's amazing that POTUS decided not to throw out the first pitch for the Nationals games. Presidents have been doing that for over 100 years, but maybe he doesn't want the FBI to question them about what they found on the baseball.
Yeah. I think that's scary more than anything else. And if he doesn't wear a cap, no other president wore a cap out there on the mound. Which direction would that hair go if a gun comes up?
That's funny, Big C. But I want to also touch on the fact that them good old boys down in Georgia, I think the Atlanta Braves, they opened the Olympic Stadium just, I think, 1996, I believe. And now they're opening their new stadium, but it's not in the heart of Atlanta anymore. I guess it's out more in the outskirts. Your thoughts on a great-looking ballpark? It's kind of a throwback-looking stadium, but they have a great thing going down there, them good old boys. Any buzz in the South about Atlanta with their new baseball stadium? They just celebrated the Super Bowl loss, and they're going to also have Mercedes-Benz Dome opening next year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about that, Charlton, you got a city in the South with 2 stadiums that were basically, 2.5 decades old. The Olympic Stadium from '96, so it's basically enough for the '97 baseball season. When they reconfigured the stadium to fit the Braves after the Olympics, and Muhammad Ali
Yeah.
It's up in Cobb County where they put it. They moved it from the area, and you know, when you do it like that from that inner city, we've seen so many great stadiums being in the inner city area to help keep those areas vitalized. You know, we've talked about the Oakland Coliseum.
Yeah.
Basically being in the inner city in East Oakland.
Yeah.
You know, and so many people in those communities depended on the events financially that went on at that stadium, and that's the same thing in the Atlanta area, and now they're moving it up to Cobb County to a more affluent area, because I think a lot of times they're saying, well, the people from the affluent areas don't want to come to the lesser affluent areas of a town any longer. And so if those people from that lesser affluent area want to go, they can go through mass transit to get to us.
Yeah.
But, you know, it hurts economically all the way around, but, you know, it's all also what we keep talking about. You build it, they will come. Everybody is looking for the next new digs. Your boys out there in Oakland, you know, are now going to be going to Vegas in 3 years. But, you know, the most amazing thing that the fans can do in Oakland is leave the stadium empty for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Back, Mr. Davis, say, hey, appreciate you, but not going to support you.
Big C.
You know, the diehard fan will go regardless of the situation.
Yeah.
But I always look back to the Houston Oilers' last game in Astrodome.
Yeah.
When less than 18,000 fans showed up, Charlton, for that farewell game between the Oilers and the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
No one cared. 18,000 fans in a stadium that seated 62,000.
Wow.
So you talk about a cavernous place, it was empty. And I think that's the most respect that the fans of Oakland can do to themselves is not show up any longer.
Well,
so, you know, this is just the manifestation of professional sports. I need more money as an owner. You got to build me a new stadium, give me some more luxury suites so that money stays in my pocket.
And Big C, what I love about what you're saying, and because it makes sense, I respect the people of Boston, Massachusetts, and the fact that they kept Fenway, even though they took, you know, Foxborough, even when they built the new stadium, when they had the old Foxborough Stadium and they built Gillette Stadium, they kept it in the city of Boston, well, not in the city, but in Foxborough is not that far from downtown Boston, but they kept it where people can go, and they're used to going and how to get there, Big C. They did the same thing, them good old boys in Chicago, where they did Soldier Field, they revamped Soldier Field. I appreciate what they did with that. And even in Oakland, even though Golden State's moving across the bay, they're going back to where they were. I think they started in San Francisco, and they're going about 8 miles from where they are right now. So they're still.
They used to play at a place called the Cow Palace.
Yeah, Cow Palace.
San Francisco.
Yeah, the Cow Palace. So they're going back to where their stomping grounds.
Great concert venues on the West Coast.
Oh, I saw Luther Vandross there. I was trying to rub up against this lady back in the day, Luther Vandross, and you know she didn't go for it. So his love songs were not as good as some of the good old boys said it was. Big C, I still could get a number even though that's back in the day. But I do want to thank a lady by the name of Shanna McArdle. She's part of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and Massachusetts Marketing and Sports Marketing Office. She'll be doing some work with Big C Sports all the way across in the great Northeast. I also want to say, go to Facebook, GoFundMe, Karen Holloway Smith. They're raising money to help get clean water to African villages. It's a great cause on Facebook at GoFundMe, Karen Holloway Smith. They're doing a great job to bring clean drinking water to the people of Boston, anti what Donald Trump is doing with getting rid of some of the EPA restrictions, basically, so we can have more polluted America. But as we get ready for this Final Four, we've talked about NBA basketball. We know baseball is going to be throwing the first pitch in a couple of days, Big C. I just want to get your thoughts on what you're most looking forward to down in that heat in Arizona. And one more thing of advice, keep that moonshine away from Charles Barkley, Big C. He'll drink it all, Big C. He'll drink it all. Your thoughts, Big C. Yeah, he'll find it.
You looked at some great Southwestern cuisine, Jonathan, first and foremost. It's everywhere, so you can't find a bad meal down there. But, you know, to have talent at its height that is going to be down here in the desert, Jonathan, you know, you really look forward to that. You know, the past couple of Final Fours, Jonathan, has been epic events.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why you play the game, Jonathan, because of it can be epic. And when you get to this point, you do not know that you'll ever get back there. You think about Carolina repeating, Jonathan, after running the gauntlet, coming back to the Final Four, after being in Houston last year. Now they're in Arizona this year.
Yeah.
They're the only team to get back there, up the Final Four. So you think of the futility of this program and Coach Roy Williams, how he's able to prepare these young men, Dalton, but it also stands for what we talk about. He's able to keep these young men in college.
Yeah.
Mark Pugh finally making it to the Final Four, Dalton, with a veteran-laden team. Okay, this is these players that haven't been in the major spotlight, that all the guys during the game, during the broadcast talk about he's a diaper dandy, you know, he's a surefire
yeah.
pick and all of that.
Right.
So these players have stayed in school. Look at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Who even knew who they were? You know, this is a team, Charlton, that lost to Alabama twice during the regular season.
Yeah.
They thought it was football. They lost to them twice.
Yeah.
During the regular season in basketball.
Yeah.
So this is a team that had 8 losses during the regular season that nobody gave a chance to. And then Oregon, as you talked about, coming from another football powerhouse school in the past.
Yeah.
You know, this is a program that they lost their big man early in the season.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that shot blocker, but it shows how the coach was able to bring the team together and say, hey, we have to play more as a collective unit now that we've lost a key clog in our defense.
Yeah.
And so this team was able to bring it together. They were in the Pac-12 championship run all season long, Charlton.
Yeah.
They didn't back down from any opponents, and they've gotten back to the Final Four for the first time in 77 years. So perseverance for all of these programs. But Charlton, beyond the perseverance is the experience of their rosters.
Yeah.
When you look at this team, when they put their starting lineups on the floor, Charlton, these are not teams that are going out there starting 3 freshmen.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
These are teams that are going out there starting 3 juniors and seniors, 4 juniors and seniors. So that's what this Final Four is going to get. It's going to get a mature lineup from each roster, Charlton.
Yeah.
And you're going to get gamesmanship out on the floor. You're not going to get that ticky-tack attitude of DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah.
Big Boogie won't be there.
Yeah.
You're going to see young men acting like grown men, Charlton, appreciating the moment of where they've arrived to.
Well, that's definitely well said. It's going to be dominated by upperclassmen. And speaking of being dominated by upperclassmen, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to say there's never any room for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through any garbage, just call 911, because no woman should have to go through that garbage all on her own. And as we tell you on every program, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.